So hello and welcome to the channel. Today's video is about pivot table. Pivot tables are easy, but mastering their properties is what makes you an Excel pro. Let's break down these 10 properties, or you can say the variants in which you can use the pivot table. So starting with the first topic, which is multi-level data summarization. So pivot table don't just summarize data, they can break it down into multiple levels, giving you a clear hierarchy of insights in seconds. So what we have to do here, we have to get a pivot table right here so that we can practice this multi-level data summarization. So we are going to insert, then going to pivot table, from table range, and we want on this worksheet only, so we will give the cell reference where we want our pivot table to be displayed. So pressing enter will give us a pivot table, a blank pivot table over here. So our question over here is to create a pivot table showing total and average salary by department, then region, then branch. Means we have to create a hierarchy of department, then region, then branch. And after creating this kind of pivot table, what we have to answer is which department and branch combination pays the highest average salary. So we have to drag the department first of all in the row. So dragging the department in the row, then the region, then the branch, and we have to drag the salary in the values column, and again salary, because we have to see the total and the average also. So the first dragged one is the sum of the salary. Second, we will change it by going to value field setting. We will set it to average. Now this is the average. So we have got the 3 rows having the department, region, branch in a hierarchy, and the second is sum of salary, and third is average of salary. So for finding the highest average salary, what you can do is, so the first method is clicking anywhere on the average salary row, any value, and right click, we get a sort option, and there we can sort largest to smallest. By doing this, we get the entries sorted from largest to the smallest. There is another option where we can go to the row label, and we can click on this icon, and there we get value filters. In this we can go to the top 10, and we want the top 1 because we want the highest one. So by average of salary. So now pressing OK will give us Director South Coaching. So now coming back to the second one, which is calculated field and calculated items. So first of all, we have to get a pivot table over here. So doing the same process, going to insert a pivot table on an existing worksheet, and our worksheet and the cell, and we get a pivot table. So what questions we have to solve over here is add a calculated field called bonus using the formula salary into 10%, and which department has the highest total bonus payout. So we got a blank pivot table, and now coming to pivot table analyze. In this tab you can see a column called field, item, and sets. So going on a calculated field, we will name it as bonus, and the formula will be salary insert field into 0.10. So we will add this. Now Excel will create a bonus field which is 10% of salary added in our pivot table. So pressing OK will give us a sum of bonus. Now we have to drag some rows as well. So we want the highest, which department is paying the highest total bonus. So we want department in the rows. So we got the department and the bonus table. So the first way is to right click. So the first way is to right click, sort largest to smallest, and we got the sales department paying 29,545. And the second one is to going on the row label icon and value filters and top 10 and pressing over here top 1. OK will give us the sales department paying 29,545 rupees. So in this way we can create a new field which is not given in the original table and use it in our pivot table for the calculations as well through the calculated fields and calculated items, giving our own formulas to be worked upon the original data. So next, coming to value field setting, custom summaries. So sum and average are just the basic. Pivot table can show percentage, differences, ranking and much more. So to see all these things, first we will insert a pivot table. So going to insert a pivot table, and we got one. So now we will drag the department in the rows and the salary in the values. Now we will drag the salary in the value 3 times. Okay. So we will change the value field setting of the sum of the salary as we have seen in the first 2 examples. We will click on the sum of the salary and there will be a pane in which we can see the value field settings, and this will show you some other options other than sum and average. So we will take max and pressing OK will now change the first salary into the max of the salary. Now changing the second salary into minimum and pressing OK will change to minimum, then changing third salary into average. So pressing OK. So now we have seen that what we have to answer. So what we have to answer is which department has the widest salary range, means difference between max and min. So what the question over here is, which department has the widest salary range? So in the previous example we have seen we created a calculated column in which we gave our own formula for the bonus, but in this case we cannot do that because as you can see, if we go to pivot table analyze and field item set calculated fields, and if we say we want our range, then when we go for the formula we don't have the max min kind of fields because we have only salary field which is present in the original data. So we cannot create a calculated column in this case. So what we have to do, we have to do it manually only, that the max minus min. So we have manually calculated the range. So the department where max salary minus minimum salary is highest shows the highest pay gap or salary variation within that department. So in this case we can see that the highest variation is in the finance department, 16,625. Next, coming to grouping data. So raw data is messy, but pivot table let you group dates, numbers and categories to reveal meaningful patterns instantly. So first of all we will insert a pivot table over here. So we we got our pivot table. Now what's the question which we have to solve using the grouping data feature? So how many employees were hired each year and in which quarter was the highest hiring? So to solve this problem, what we need is hire date and values, means employee ID or name, that also in count. So we will drag the hire date in rows and we will drag the employee ID, or we can say the first name, in the values column. So it is automatically taking the count function on that, because it's a name and we cannot do any sum, we cannot do any arithmetic functions on that. So the table in which we are having the dates and the count of employees hired in that specific time period. So what we will do, we will right click on any hire date and select group. Now here what we will do, in the grouping dialog, check years and check quarters. So first of all we will unselect this. So years and quarters, these both are selected and we will say OK. And now, so Excel has automatically created years and quarters. So 1977 quarter 1 and 3, 1979 quarter 1 and 4. So the first part, that how many employees were hired each year, we can answer from this pattern, that in 1977 3 employees were hired, in 1978 3 employees were hired, and so on. So for the next part, in which quarter was the highest hiring, we will click on the side button, values and top 10, and we will say 1, and we get 1988, which has 25 hirings among all the quarters. Quarter 4 has the highest hiring, 23. So quarter 4 of 1988 has the highest hiring. So by grouping data we solved this problem. Next, coming to the fifth feature, which is pivot chart. So numbers tell a story, but pivot charts bring that story to life and they update automatically with your pivot table. So here, what is the question? Which department shows the most variation in salary across regions? So first of all, we will get the pivot table. And we got the blank pivot table over here. So now what we want, so as per the question, we need department in the rows, and salary in the values. We have to change, so we have to change the sum to average. Let's change it. And so we got a table in which we have departments and average of salary. Now coming to Power Pivot Analyze and pivot charts, we are getting a clustered column chart over here. So we will insert this chart right here. So we have a pivot chart showing average salary by department. We want to see the variation in different regions. So what we have to do, we have to drag the regions in the legend series. So now we got a table having all the region name and department name on the x-axis and region name on the y-axis, and we can see the average salary among all the data. So here is a chart showing the variation in the salary. As we can see that finance department is having a great disparity between the highest and the lowest salary. So next, moving to slicers and timeline. So want creative reports. Everybody wants them. So slicers and timeline let user filter data with a single click. No Excel skill required, and you just have to click on the points. You just have to click on the desired option and you will get the answer. So for that, let's first of all insert a pivot table. Alt N V T. So this is the shortcut, and we got it. So we have a blank pivot table, and we have to answer how many employees in the sales department were hired in 2022 in the West region and what's their total salary. First of all, we have to get the first name, and we got a count. Then we have to get the salary, and we got it here. So 102 people are there, and their sum of the salary is this much. So now we have to add the slicers. We are going to pivot table analyze, and we are inserting a slicer, and we have to insert a slicer of department and region. We want 2 slicers. So we got them, and let's arrange them. Now coming back to our table, pivot table, and coming to pivot table analyze, inserting the timeline, and we got a timeline for the dates. Now let's check if we want to check the how many people, sales department, West region, and let's say year was. We have to first of all change it to years so that we can get a good answer. So let's assume we want 1996 to 1998. How many people were hired? No one was hired. So let's increase the span. No one was hired. Let's assume all period. So we got 3 people and 47,250 were the salary. Let's say we want marketing and east, and so we got 2 people and 21,875. So in this way we can answer the number of people hired in this period and their total salary paid. So one thing you have to keep in mind, that right click the slicer and you get a report connection option in which you can connect it to other pivot tables as well. So we don't need it over here right now because we are not creating a dashboard. We are just learning pivot table properties. So we will leave it for the other video. But you can do this if you are creating a pivot table dashboard. If you are creating a dashboard, so you can right click the slicer, the timeline, and connect it to whatever pivot table you want to connect to it. So now next, moving to the 7th property, which is data source and refresh control. So changes every day, and pivot table are built to keep up with the powerful refresh and data source control. Means if your source data is changing, then your pivot table data should also change according to the original data. So this automatically doesn't happen. You have to refresh the pivot. So we will add some table over here. Let's copy this much for our table, and we will paste it over here and change it to table. Now this is the table, and now we will create a pivot table. So this is our pivot table, and let's put some things: department in the rows, salary in the values, and we got the department by salary sum. So let's add some more data to the table, and now we are adding 2 more rows in the table, and we got this. So now as we have added the 2 rows extra, but it is not showing anything because it will not automatically show. We have to refresh it. So to right click and say refresh, and now it is showing all the new updated data in the refresh column. So you can do it by going on pivot table analyze, refresh all, and you can right click on the pivot table, and you have an option to refresh. You can do that as well. So in this way your pivot table automatically refreshes itself after every new addition or modification in the source data. Next, moving to conditional formatting. So we need, instead of searching through numbers, let Excel highlight trends, outliers and performance automatically. Yes, Excel automatically tells you what are the trend, what is the highest, what is the lowest, by doing some visual representation. So let's create Alt and VT and existing, and we got a table. So rows, department and salary in the values. So we got this table. Now let's coming to the home tab, and we got a conditional formatting over here. So first of all, we have to select the table and we have to do data bars. We can do the gradient fill. It will fill in the proportion of the values in the field. Colors, it will fill the colors. Right now red is the highest and yellow is the lowest. Highlight cell rules, top bottom rules, data bars, color scale, icon set, new rule, clear rule, manage rules. So I have created a video on conditional formatting. I have explained all these topics in very detail, so you can check that video. The link is in I button in the description also. Right now I am selecting the data bars for my data. So in this way you can create a visual representation using the conditional formatting in the pivot table. In this case, it is asking which department are visually identified as the top performers. So we can say sales is the top performer since the data bar is the highest in this case. So next, moving to the advanced filtering and sorting. Sorting, sometimes you don't want all the data, you want the right data. Advanced filtering and sorting make that easy. So for that we are going to create so we will have branch and we will have salary, and the answer which we have to answer over here is which branch rank number 1 and what's the total salary. So how we can do that? As we know that we can right click anywhere and do the sorting largest to smallest. So the Agra branch is having highest salary. Also we can click on this icon and we get label filters, means we can filter the text in which we have all the equals, does not equal, begin, does not begin, contain, etc., and the value filter for the numeric data. So I have created a video on filtering and sorting, and in that video I have explained this all topics in very detail, so you can go and check out the video for understanding these in detail. So right now we will go on value filters and top 10, but we want the number 1 thing, so we will just say number 1 and OK, and we got the Agra branch which is having 1,20,050 rupees as the highest salary paid. So Agra branch is the answer of this question using the pivot table advanced filtering and sorting. So next, moving to advanced pivot table options. So behind the scenes, pivot table have advanced options that control performance, layout and behavior, and most users never open them. So let's see what's that. So let's see all these things on this table because it has a lot of variance and it will show you exactly how. So coming to the design tab, and from here you can see in this layout pane you have a report layout option, and in which you can click in the show in tabular form, show in outline form, show in compact form. So let's see how it happens. Tabular form is this, in which you see it in a table like structure. Everything is very clear and the tabs are separated, like department is here, region is here, and under region branches are here. So this is the tabular form. This is an outline form. Some layouts are changed, and this is the compact form which we almost usually have, the pivot table. So mostly the tabular form is used for more clarity in the table. Each field now appears in its own column like a normal table. Next, coming to the option repeat all item labels. So let's click it over here. It will fill the columns. Next, coming to the subtotal. So do not show subtotal. It will eliminate the subtotal. Show all subtotal at bottom as we were having before, and if you want you can do that at top also. Next, coming to grand totals. So usually we need them off for rows and column, on for rows and column, on for rows, on for columns. So we have seen all the layouts and all the variations in the design, but what is the best for a standard looking view? So tabular is the perfect view with the repeated all items and subtotals at the bottom of the group. Why so? Because it is like a HR ready report. It is easy in filtering and lookup functions. It is very helpful in comparing the departments side by side because everything is visible over here, and it is also good for the PDF export and management reviews. So this was all about pivot table and its 10 properties or 10 ways in which you can use the pivot table for a good data analytics. So hope you find this video helpful. If so, do subscribe to the channel, and video links are in description and in the I button. You can check them and go through for the conditional formatting and sort and filters. Thank you so much for watching this video.